Good morning. This is Petra from Keeping It Real and Raw, my 100-day journey on doing raw foods. Well, here you have it. This is me 35 years ago. Can you imagine? Yes, I had some dark hair, was very young, but I believe this is where my journey into the health field started. So at that age, around 20, I was hired with the airlines, Ward Air, and back then we used to call them stewardesses, but now we call them flight attendants. And so I did a lot of traveling, being German background, did a lot of flights, international, especially to Germany. But in around 6 years into flying, my younger sister, who is 10 years younger than I, at the age of 16, was diagnosed with cancer, Ewing sarcoma. And I'm going to show a picture. I got permission, and this was my sister 30 years ago at 16 at Children's Hospital. And I know that because my oldest son here just turned a year old, Brandon. And we were visiting Renee in the hospital at Sick Children's in Toronto. And that is, I believe, really more so when my journey began into finding out why cancer happens. What can you do about it? And even back then, 30 years ago, when Renee was diagnosed, I went on the hunt and I started to read and read and read. And I must have read over the last 30 years, I must have read over hundreds and hundreds of books. I was very intrigued. And one of the mentors who I felt brought some real significant information about cancer, and that was Max Gerson. And Max Gerson was a German doctor who in the time, about 100 years ago, actually created a cure. Now, we're not allowed to say cure, but I feel he had a significance in helping tuberculosis at the time. And he had a book out called, I think, The 50 Cases of Treating Cancer. And his big protocol at that time was food, and he related food with disease. And when I started to read some of these books way back when, I realized that juice therapy was very well known. Even at the time my sister was going through chemotherapy and radiation, I brought back 10 cases of juice therapy from Germany, and the base of that juice therapy was beets. Beets are a phenomenal blood cleanser. And here I was bringing back 10 cases for my sister to drink. The problem with doing alternative treatments is when you're first diagnosed with cancer, as my sister, my parents, as all of us would, and it's natural, would go into a fear mode. And so all we know is to trust the doctors on their protocol. And the protocol for cancer, still to this day, is chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery. And unfortunately, I believe, or fortunately for me, I believe through all the research that I have done, there are alternative ways. Because after what I saw my sister go through for 2 years, she had over 2 years of chemotherapy. She had anywhere from 24 to 30 radiation treatments. She struggled. She struggled, and I saw her go through a lot of physical problems. And at that point, I told myself, for me personally, I found the treatment extremely harsh. Yes, thank God, she is alive today, and she's doing well. But I tell you, 5 years, maybe even more, the physical problems that, the problems with her growth, sterilization, it stunted her growth. She had bowel problems. It was just numerous. And I believe it weakens the immune system. My personal belief. But that just made me more convinced to look into alternative ways. Yes, it is a personal choice. But there have been so many successes with the alternative route. Is it harder? Absolutely. It's harder taking your own responsibility and making choices and not giving your choices and your life up to somebody else. The biggest problem that I find with the alternative, or no, with the orthodox way of treating disease is they suppress the problem. They do not get to the root of the problem. And it's understandable in one way because doctors are not taught nutrition. There was a saying, and I think everybody remembers this quote by Hippocrates: let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. And that's really, really important. And we need to really think about that. And over the years, because of my sister having the cancer, it intrigued me to really get to the underlying causes. So one of the major mentors in my life was Dr. Bernard Jensen. And he was a naturopath. He was a chiropractor, naturopath. He also was the doctor who did iridology. And iridology, or as some call it iridology, is the study of the eyes. And by looking at the fibers and the coloring and the markings of the eyes, you can actually go in, and it's like taking an x-ray. And this is just one way of understanding how the human body works. Many countries, many people have different ways of looking. The Chinese can read your skin, they can read your eyes, they can read your fingernails, they can read the lines, everything. I mean, there's so many ways besides just an x-ray that can tell you what's happening in your body. But by studying and being an iridologist for 10 years, it did give me some huge understanding on the causes. And the causes are many factors. But the most important, I believe, is food. So it opened up a world of, already back then, about raw foods and living foods, things that have enzymes, things that are alive, things that will clean out the system. So that's a lot of my understanding came from being an iridologist. Is it hard work? Absolutely. Absolutely, it is hard work to look after yourself. It's hard work to do healthy living. It's so much easier just to say, oh, I'll just cut it out. I'll just take pills and suppress it. The problem is it does catch up with you. And I look at myself. I mean, as much knowledge, and believe me, over the years, I have studied with the classics, Gerson, Charlotte Gerson, the daughter of Max Gerson. There are people like Jay Kordich. I think you guys remember him. He was the juice daddy. He is now in this picture, I think, pushing 90. There was, and he was a real advocate for raw juices and live substances going in your body. Another wonderful person who actually lived till over 110 years, Dr. Larry Walker. A huge advocate of fresh fruits, alive fruits, not cooking and processing as much as we do today. The other pioneers of the raw food or alive food is David Wolfe, Sun Food Diet. Again, stressing alive, fresh foods. We have so many. I mean, it's unbelievable. Behind me, I have an array of books from different people. I mean, it's just endless. Frederick Patenaude, the Regenerator, Dan the Man. We have Marcus Rothkrantz. He is more your modern, up-to-date. He's 50 and looks like he's 30. We have Doug Graham with his 80-10-10 book. We have Live Juices with Mimi Kirk. It's just It's wonderful to see that we are now coming back and looking into the old ways. I mean, juicing and fresh foods and alive foods, they were around 100 years ago. And the reason why they didn't make it up to the forefront is a lot of doctors that were helping and curing people were basically put out of commission. They were detained, put in jail. Some even, from what I heard, were poisoned. I mean, it's frightening to believe that something like that can happen, but personally, I believe it has happened. But people are starting to stand up and wanting to know the truth. And I believe there is so much truth in nutrition. So, yeah, but then, I look at myself, I'm human too. Even though I know as much as I know, and I still ran into physical problems because we live in a world that isn't just good. We have to deal with the stresses in the world. We have family members, we have society, we have bills, we have stresses, we have a lot of things. And because of it taking a lot of time to prepare healthy foods, to prepare juices, we slack off. I'm at fault for that as well. It's hard to be perfect. But I think if you take the time to study, take responsibility, don't let your health necessarily in someone else's hands. Is there a place for orthodox medicine? Absolutely. I'm not denying it. I'm not saying that you should never go. I mean, I deal with the orthodox as well, but they're not with you 24/7. So I think for the most of the day, we need to take charge of our life. We need to say, look at the things that are not going right and try to find answers. Now, there are a lot of alternative practices, and you just have to figure out which one works for you. There isn't one magic pill for one disease. That just will never exist. There are many magic pills, and you just have to figure out which one is going to work for you. And if it doesn't work, keep trying another one. Just keep learning. Just take charge of your life. And there comes a time when the universe gives you that universal boot, whether you want to or not. And that's when you just take charge. Anyways, that is it for me today. I started with this journey 35 years ago. I don't regret it. It has given me huge amounts of information, knowledge, and I'm grateful for that. So anyways, you guys have an awesome day. We'll check in with you tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.